morning. Let's see. Mark, you and I were the ones here last week, right?
Yes, sir.
Okay, so minutes and last and claims. Are minutes okay?
We've got the minutes for the June 13th regular meeting and the June 13th zoning meeting for approval.
I move to approve.
Second? Aye, aye. Aye. Okay.
And next, we've got the claims for June 30th through June 16th in the amount of $75,049,135.77,
Jimmy, you want to explain why that amounts so much?
because it's got the distribution in it. Distributing the
Taxes.
settlement
Yep.
to all the county, or all the government units in the county.
Looks like the biggest one was the school corporation, $21 million
Generally is.
generally.
You know, I was talking to somebody about airport last night a little bit, briefly, and this would be a good document for anybody wanting to know what their tax dollars, where they go to, and how they're funded, and how the fire department runs to the airport, to the different entities around the county.
Yeah, you're right.
Okay. Do I have a motion for review, question?
Motion to approve.
Second.
All by aye?
Aye.
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 Thank you. Okay. Resolution assigning tax sale certificate. Okay.
Good morning, Commissioners. I'm sorry, I'll be John Villa from our office today. You should have Resolution 2023-07. I hope that you've had a chance to review. It's a resolution assigning the tax sale certificate to the City of Terre Haute Department of Redevelopment. It's for 1813 Liberty Avenue. This has been in the tax sale since 2013. It just keeps rolling. And they do own several parcels around it. So basically what you're doing is assigning the tax sale certificate ahead of time to them, which is allowable by statute, and then they will start the redemption period. That way, it's, and send out all notices like everyone else, and then it'll follow the same procedure as in the past.
Okay. Any questions?
Nope, I'll make a motion to approve that as well.
Second.
All by aye?
Aye.
Aye.
Thank you.
Thanks, Cheryl.
Thank you, Madam Auditor. Okay. Okay. This time, any comments from the public?
Gerald Hargis. This may be an inappropriate time. I have a comment on a zoning petition.
Yep. Certainly.
Should I wait?
You're fine.
Okay. As public servants, I'm certain that there's probably nothing you can do that doesn't draw criticism from one section of the public or another. And I'm here to thank you for the way that you conducted the business with Key Rock and the petition. I think that you went above and beyond in accepting public input and conducting a public meeting. And I just want to express my appreciation because I think it's an example of your ongoing good governance and civic responsibility.
Oh, well, thank you.
Thank you.
Any other comments from the public? Okay. Comments from the commissioners or other elected officials?
Or department heads.
Board department is, it's my time.
Yes.
Good morning. Just like to update everyone on the request from last week for the intersection improvements at Woods Mall and McDaniel and Dallas.
Oh, yeah.
Went out and evaluated all that. All the signage is there. All the warning signage and everything is currently in place that should be. We have mowed back the sight lines and the sight distance issues that are there as well. We are looking at updating some of that signage, just a little dated. Some of it's old signage, it's only 30 by 30. Some we're going to increase the size of it. Some of them are 24 by 24, so we'll increase the size of the stop signs. We will add additional placard that says cross traffic does not stop at this time, even though I do have a request to evaluate that for a four-way stop, so we will do that here in the coming month. We'll probably wait until we get back count. If they do meet, we can make sure we get the accurate counts for that data. So we are evaluating, everything is in place, but we are going to update it with some new signage. Just want to pass that along.
Okay,
Thank you.
Thank you.
thank you, thanks a lot for following up on that. Yeah, I'd like to say that review of roads over the weekend and a couple of things, ditches look good, brush and things move back to fence rows, intersections, very good. I'm sure we always do a little more on clearing intersections, but they looked good. Signage looked good. Edges of road breaking off, things like that, several repairs been done. I would say we're on it. I think probably Mother Nature helped us a little bit by not having a terrible spring, but we moved ahead very nicely. But we'll, always room for improvement. We'll keep on it. But Mr. Loudermilk?
Mr. President, members of the commission, kind of want to bring up some old business that happened last week. Excuse me, where a ordinance amendment that I had requested was tabled. I was requested by Commissioner Morris to poll the county council and get their feelings on the status of this ordinance, and I did that. Of the 7 councilmen, I was able to get a hold of 5 of them, met with them personally, and was able to, I can report to you that overwhelmingly they support the changing this ordinance. Now, they didn't deny that when this request would come before them that they would not utilize general fund revenue. They said that was absolutely a possibility. But there was overwhelming fear that the Baker-Tilly study would have such an impact that they wouldn't be able to approve a position out of the general fund. And that if the position was needed, which I wouldn't be here if it wasn't, then to have an alternate source of funding would be nice. They didn't say that they would automatically choose this source. They absolutely said they would consider the general fund, but to be able to have this as a fallback was what they wanted. So I don't know, obviously we're not going to vote on it today, and I understand that, but I wanted to at least be able to make a report back to you. I was asked to speak with them. There are 2 that I have left to speak with. I will do that this week, and then we'll submit a letter to the commissioners requesting to be put back on the agenda for reconsideration. But I wanted to let you know that, and I understand the concern when the ordinance was first adopted. It was never to be used for salaries or benefits, and I support Mr. Morris in his feeling. I went through this when I was a city councilman in Terre Haute. We had the EMS ordinance that we did, and the one thing that drew us to pay salaries there was the tax caps. So we aren't facing that here, obviously, but we are facing some lean times, especially with respect to what may occur with this study. And so I don't want to be so far along in the year that when the budget is advertised, that we don't have a way to fund that position. It's obviously up to the council whether they choose to do it, and it's up to you guys whether you choose to allow them to pay for it out of this fund. But I think the more options we give them, the better chance we'll have. So if you have any questions for me, obviously, get a hold of me. I'd be more than happy to answer those. And then this week, I will speak to the other 2 councilmen that I was unable to get to last week, and of course, because of the holiday, and try to get you, a letter with, who said what, and so you'll have at least an informed decision.
Okay,
Thank you.
all right. Thank you, Director. Okay. Any other officials have any news or anything? Okay. You're good?
I'm good.
Okay. Well, we stand in recess then. Thank you. Okay. Mr. Jared, we will have rezoning meeting. What's up? Hey. All right, we will now commence with area planning and with our zoning meeting.
Good morning, gentlemen. We are revisiting some old business today. We have 3 items on the agenda. I'll start with UZOs numbers 5 and 6 of 2023. We've had extensive meetings with that, and it is my belief that Key Rock intended to withdraw these petitions, as reported by the news media. However, I have received nothing from the petitioner or the petitioner's representative.
Jared, the 3 county commissioners received an email last night from Richard Shagley representing Key Rock that says, on behalf of Key Rock Energy, we are withdrawing the petitions to rezone the 2 pieces of property in western Vigo County. Thank you for your consideration. If you have any questions, please do not hesitate to contact me or the representatives from Key Rock. I pushed that out to the media last night because I knew there was going to be a lot of people that would show up today that were taking time away from work, and I didn't want them to have to show up if we were just going to have this withdrawn, so.
So to make that official, we'll need a copy of that, please.
Okay.
Thank you.
No problem.
That is in the files.
So officially then, we don't have to take any action on anything because Key Rock is just withdrawing the petition.
If he has withdrawn them, yes,
Okay.
no action is required.
Sending it to you right now.
Thank you.
Okay, so I'm sure we have a few people that might have some interest in that issue. So as we'll make it official, it's been withdrawn at this time, that zoning petition.
I think I just got it.
I will say, it's, when things like this impact neighborhoods, I think there were more people that showed up for this than there were for the Riley Trail or anything we've done since I've been commissioner. So, kudos to you folks who showed up and spoke out. I mean, it's pretty good work. So, yes, ma'am.
Yeah, you can comment. Yeah,
If
come
you
on up.
could come to the microphone.
Come on up, please. Please.
Do I have to speak? Hello? Okay. One of the reasons why we showed up was because when we went online, we were not finding out any information about this company. The gentleman had said that they were new, that they had branched off. When I had talked to Ben, he had said something about in 2014 they branched off from another company. And when you go online and you try to research someone to find out what they plan on doing, how they do it, where they're at, what kind of facilities you can visit, we weren't finding anything.
Right.
So for us, it sounded like a shady car dealer. And if you're going to have a shady car dealer in your neighborhood, you want to know about him. And that was our problem, was we had no information on these people. We couldn't go visit a facility. We couldn't put our hands on anything. They're coming in and they're saying, oh, this isn't going to impact you. But nobody lives in that area. We are the ones that are going to have to deal with whatever they're putting in out there. Yes, we're worried about our water. Will it do it? I don't know. But people who live in town can turn their faucet on anytime they want and get water. We can't. So that's a huge issue for us. We moved to the country because we like our peace, our quiet, the tranquility. And when you have something that sounds like, I don't know what they say, a vacuum cleaner or something, 24/7. 24/7. I hear birds. I hear my grandkids play. I hear the occasional whistles of the trains going through St. Mary's, Sanford, New Goshen, all those areas out there, the state line. But I don't hear them all the time. And to have something like that in our neighborhood, and we wouldn't have had to have a say about it, we just couldn't stand for. And Chris, I appreciate you getting the information out last night.
Yep.
We kind of passed it around to everybody as much as we could, but there's a few of us that are a little speculative. We're still kind of wondering what's going on here. We don't think this is done and over. So I guess the next thing I would like to ask is, how are we going to find out new information if they try to do something out there? Are we just, like we have been, we just look for a sign?
No, I mean, it'll have to appear in the newspaper. I mean,
Uh-huh.
that's going to be your first notice. But then, we always send everything out to the media so they know what's happening at the APC
Okay.
meetings, Area Plan Commission meetings.
Okay.
And then you'll have opportunity there to speak again. I would say they're not finished as well. I'm
Right.
sure they're going to find another piece of property somewhere else, whether
Yes.
that's in northwestern Vigo County or where it might be in this community. So just have to keep your ears and eyes open, and we'll know and be here to listen whenever you have a concern.
Okay. I want to thank you guys very much for pressing them and making them bring the meeting into the public so that we all got the information all at the same time.
Yeah. well,
Thanks, guys.
Thank you.
By withdrawing this request, there's no hiatus placed on a petition to rezone.
Right.
They
Right.
could refile, again, if be heard for the exact same thing in a couple of months. Should they do so, we will again send out adjacent property owner notices like we did. So if you are an adjoining property owner or you know them, we'll send it, notice in the mail.
My issue is, when you send out an adjacent property notice, there was a gentleman who received a notice saying he was adjacent to this property. He lives 3/4 of a mile down the road and on the opposite side of the property doesn't touch that property. So I'm trying to understand why certain people get those information.
Utilizing the tax records, we send a letter via standard mail to any property owner within 1/8 of a mile of the boundaries of that piece of ground petitioned for rezoning.
Then the other thing was in Shagley's paper that he had sent out, he had stated that it was at the intersection of Lower Sanford Road and Pompano.
Yeah, Shagley's, his information, yeah, he has nothing to do with what we send out. That's him as an attorney. So if his information's incorrect, that's his problem, not ours.
Okay, I just wanted to make sure that the sign isn't in the wrong place and it should have been at the corner and not down
Sure.
where it
Well, and I would say this, it is our problem in reference to clarifying it, make certain what we're talking about is what we're talking about. So it is, and that task work, that, we can manage that. But as far as with adjacent property owners, you know, the normal procedures as Jared had outlined is the way it goes. It's nothing different for anything. There's nothing secretive in his approach to this or anything like that.
Yeah, I think if this comes up again, you'll for sure hear about it. I mean, our whole goal here is to be as transparent as possible and give everybody a chance to voice their opinion, so.
Yeah, yeah. So,
Okay? No further discussion on the matter, we'll move on.
thank you.
The next item, that is, again, old business, was Resolution 1 of 23. That was Senate Bills 411 and 390. Commercial, again, just commercial, solar and wind energy standards. These are guidelines as set forth by the state to deal with things like setback, height limitations, buffering, ground cover, fencing, any underground cables or above-ground infrastructure, glare minimization, signal interference, sound level limitations, drainage repair, decommissioning, abandonment, light mitigation, things of those matters surrounding, again, only commercial solar and wind projects. They also have incentives attached to it should we as a community become voluntarily a commercial or wind energy-ready community. I know I contacted outside counsel. There is nothing in our current statutes that prevents us from voluntarily adopting what the state has said is perhaps the best guidelines for these projects. I have spoken directly with a representative of a company who is planning a 1,200-acre solar project in our community. He said that these are good guidelines to work within, and he was in favor of us adopting something, either this or similar, going forward. It kind of gave them a framework to work within. And I've spoken to a number of people, from state representatives and state legislators, on this matter.
Counsel, you were getting an opinion on that, right?
I did. I spoke to Rick Hall on 2 different occasions. The first occasion, he ended up following up with an email, and I forwarded to you guys, where basically he was still somewhat skeptical about it. But then he did some more research, and then he came back, and I forwarded you his second email, which basically said he's okay if you guys want to adopt it. So, he doesn't really think it's going to have much effect either way. He said he doesn't think there's a lot of funding through the state that anybody's going to get as a result of passing this, but he said whatever you want to do, he doesn't think it's going to necessarily have a negative effect. So that was up to the commissioners. It wasn't a glowing recommendation, but but he wasn't saying not to do it either.
Discussion?
Yeah, so had the opportunity to talk to Rick Hall as well. He represents the Indiana Association of County Commissioners, and of course, there are solar farms going up or being built, constructed across the state. It's a popular thing right now. But we gotta remember that this all has to come full circle. Most of these companies are gonna come in, they're gonna ask the council for a tax abatement. It's our job as commissioners to support the council in receiving economic impact payments and things of that nature to benefit our community. This is usually an issue between a local farm or landowner who has several acres that they want to sell or they want to lease to the solar company, and then we become involved because they ask for an abatement and things like that. So it's just going to be working closely with Terry, Michael, probably Rick Hall, the council, the commissioners, Jared, all of us working together to make sure they're following the rules if we pass this. And we want to make sure we have an economic benefit from having these in our community. So it's a lot of research, a lot of work on our end, the council's end, our attorney's end. And, these things are coming. No question. We have 2 or 3 interested in our community right now and potentially others. So, Terry's worked a lot with Sullivan County and Rick Hall on some of their solar projects. So I look forward to the opportunity to have one of these in our community.
I think in Sullivan, we've had like 7 of them that we've worked on now with Rick Hall. And Rick Hall's kind of the statewide authority with regard to negotiating these deals. So he knows kind of what every other county's getting and all those kind of things. So I think I told you before, I'd recommend having him involved at some point with this. The companies actually pay his fees, so it's free to the county. So anyway, it's just a no-lose situation.
Well, I like that comment because I think that whatever the structure of it needs to benefit Vigo County. And when you take farmland out of production that people are paying property tax on, and of course we all know what the school corporation and how much the revenue disbursement was for that, and then you want an abatement on something that's we're not getting any revenue out of, or we take it out of the revenue base, I struggle with that very quickly.
You say there's 7 that you've been working on in Sullivan County. How many of those are up and running, or?
They've got one right now that attended the meeting last night that they are actually in production as far as they've started. The others are probably a year or 2 away from getting to that point. I mean, there's a lot of legwork involved in these, but they've already approached the commissioners down there. And the main thing, the main benefit to the county, Mike, is that the county will be paid money as a result of an agreement. And I mean, we're talking down there on some of these companies are paying several $1 million to the county over time in exchange for the abatement. They essentially look at the value of what the abatement is to them, and they'll pay you money for it. So,
Well, I think that's exactly what my concern is, and we need to be represented well in that negotiation.
Yeah, and Mark, what I've learned in this process is these companies come online and they enter into a queue. And they can even start construction or production until the federal government acknowledges their project and approves it. So the one that I have had the opportunity to meet with, they're still 2 or 3 years away, but they're ready to get the abatement process started and everything done. That way it looks good on paper when it gets to the federal government.
I will say this much too, that from what my experience has been, which we kind of got just a bunch of these all at once. So I've had quite a bit of, we've had a lot of meetings, had people show up, and most of the farmers involved are pretty excited about it because they come out financially better than they would otherwise if they were farming those acres. So I just kind of want you to know that.
Good conversation. Was it good?
All right. So, Jared, you are recommending we take action on this?
My thought process on this is we currently have nothing in place to guard against any of the negative ramifications from these projects. Again, it's things like the decommissioning portion of it. We have nothing in our ordinance that guides anything with glare or signal interference or light mitigation, anything of that nature. These companies could today come in and ask for a permit, and assuming they had all of their paperwork in line, we would issue them a permit unbeknownst to any of the surrounding property owners or anything of that nature. So I think at a minimum, this is a guard and protection for the surrounding land uses and the surrounding property owners. Again, we have some flexibility within how the state has constructed their language, where we can be less restrictive if we need to be, to make these projects benefit everybody involved. And it also gives them some ability to negotiate with the surrounding property owners and make it work for everybody involved. So what I think we have here is a good entry-level guidance as established by the state, as has been maybe not glowingly recommended by outside counsel, but has at least responded to us in a manner that states that this in no way impedes current land uses or current property owner rights.
This is wind as well as solar.
Correct, wind and
So
solar.
two totally different projects.
They would be treated as separate, yes.
Yeah, but two totally different impacts on the community.
The different types of green energy or solar or wind would have different impacts, yes,
And this one resolution covers both of them.
correct.
I will say this much, if I may, the decommissioning is something that's handled in this economic agreement where the county's gonna get paid. That's something that has been negotiated quite thoroughly too, or will be negotiated quite thoroughly when time comes too, because that is one of the big things that gets covered in there as far as how that's gonna get handled.
And this wouldn't impede those negotiations.
No.
I think we have the option to either adopt something like this and have something in place that each solar or wind company has to work from, or we can tackle these things individually, and I certainly don't want to do that. I'd rather have something in place that they know what our community's doing along with other communities in the state.
Well, and I will say this much, and I'm not saying anything confidential, because this all happened in public meetings. Sullivan doesn't have any zoning, so we had to tackle each one individually. So it was a lot of meetings and a lot of work. Yeah.
Very interesting. I stayed over for this one. I didn't know they were going to be talking about this, but I attended a lot of the Sullivan meetings, and you're correct with Modest. I agree with Prosecutor Modest that this is very much needed down there. The other impact that I haven't heard you guys mention it is they also impact what it does to the roads. All these heavy loads, all this moving of equipment, and they don't want to be stuck with the bill of taking care of that. So I would urge you guys to look at this and adopt something that is the basis, because you already have some commercial solar in your area. You already have some out on 150 with Duke Energy. We passed the tax abatement for one on the southern part of the jurisdiction. But a solar project from the inception to where they start is 6 years. And just like you said, there's some that are 2 years out yet, but I think something to have in place, it would be beneficial. And then the decommissioning is really big. On some of the wind farms that's been around for a long time, you don't want to be stuck with those towers and have to put it back. And then I would hope that Commissioner Morse's concern about income, because they're receiving more money than what they would be for farming it. So they still should have to pay some type of an income to that, then the county should get taxes on that, I would hope. So I would hope you guys would go ahead and pass something. We always could be amended, because if it comes to when they ask for a tax abatement, I think we can ask for certain things then too, but I think the negotiations really come down with if you have a basis on it, then I think that makes it easier for the overall individual negotiations as well. So I'd support it if you guys would do that.
And President, Councilman Thacker, also the other thing is too, I was involved in a lawsuit where
Sure.
one of the solar companies did not keep up their end of the bargain.
Yeah, they did not
As far as
set-
the abatement, it got filed over in Clay County. And
Yeah, it was on a
what I was
40-acre
gonna-
one.
Yeah,
right
what I was
there.
gonna tell you was that most of these companies, make these deals, they build them, and then they sell them.
Well, then I believe Sullivan County, if I'm not mistaken, they require a bond for each one.
They do.
So then if they do sell it, they still have a bond and the county can still be made whole. And the landowner, I believe, it's for both, county and landowner. But yeah, I just don't want to see the infrastructure of the roads, culverts and ditches be affected by this and the county be stuck with the bill.
So the key in my opinion, from being through this a few times and even being involved in that lawsuit, is that, making the economic agreement as detailed as possible to cover all of these things, because you are going to be dealing down the road with a different company.
Yes.
Chances are.
It's like a
somebody that
mortgage.
didn't make the agreement at all.
It's just like
Because they're
selling a
gonna sell.
mortgage.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's
Yeah.
what they do.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, well, Larry has done a great job on requiring companies to bond roads and holding their feet to the fire on certain projects, so 100% confidence we'll be able to get that done too.
Yeah. All right, thank you.
Mr. Hargis?
Taking up so much of your time, but I just want to mention to you that although they're an advocate, the Farm Bureau is probably a good resource for information about these projects because they deal with it in communities across the state, if you're interested in researching it. And I'd also like to ask you to consider that there are grid issues and possibly eminent domain issues associated with these projects because they've got to get the power to where it's used. And I just ask you to keep those in mind while you make your deliberations.
Okay.
If there's no further discussion, Commissioner Morris, I'll make a motion to adopt this.
Second?
All by aye.
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 Opposed? Aye.
Got that, Karen? 2-1?
Any other issues?
That's all for me.
Okay.
All right.
We stand adjourned.
Thank you. Down there in his agreement, most of these is the company. Yeah, a piece. But it didn't cost the county anything, so. He knows all the ins and outs of all these agreements. I just think, I told Chris, I've been through enough of them now, I can probably do it, but I think it's. Correct, correct. You'll see, even though we passed this, we're still gonna have a very specific agreement that's gonna be negotiated. I mean, as far as decommissioning, as far as how much they're gonna pay us, number of years over what they're gonna pay us, there's gonna be a lot of individual factors that we're gonna have to deal with, so. That's fine, and we'll make our own deal, basically. I mean, and then you've got people out there too that want this and want that, they want these barriers, or they want this, want that, so we had to get into all that too. But I've had 2 farmers here in Vigo County that are aware of this deal that's talking to us now. They've already signed agreements with them, they're excited. They said, look, we can't spend this much money doing, regular farm work on the grass. So, they're excited about it. They get so much while they're waiting on the deal, but then if the deal goes through, they get a lot more per year. So, yeah. Yep.
got the 10-year abatement. Back in that day, no one really negotiated a good agreement on behalf of the county. And so the company didn't even use local people to mow it. They didn't do anything. They hadn't done one thing they were supposed to do, so I filed a suit against them over at Clay County, and they ended up paving on a bunch of stuff. We were now dealing with a company out of California that owned the company, and they wouldn't even come to a meeting and discuss it with us. So I just said, okay, let's just sue them. And they ended up giving up some of their maintenance. They haven't done anything they were supposed to at all. Yeah, we took it back. Yeah, we took it back. So I think that's another thing we put in our agreement. They agree to use local people whenever possible, and those kind of things. They'll make their best efforts to do that. So. They claimed last night at the meeting, this company, this is the same company that's doing the one here.